Okay, so in this video I'm going to show you how to make your own 360-degree swivel camera mount using inexpensive parts from the hardware store. Okay, so this is the first piece you need. It's simply a 24-inch piece of PVC riser, 1/2-inch diameter. That's the inside diameter that they listed at. The actual overall size is 3/4 inch thick, but they call it 1/2-inch diameter PVC riser. The great thing about the sprinkler parts is they already come in either gray or black. All the fittings are black, and then the actual piping is gray, so it looks good without having to do any painting. Now to each end of this piece you're going to attach one of these. It's called a swing joint elbow. So you just attach one to each end, and you notice they're pointed in opposite directions. So these come pre-threaded, so it's as simple as just spinning that onto the end of it and tightening it down. You can put a little bit of glue to make it more secure. Once you've got this piece together, you're never going to need to readjust the angle on that. That's a permanent setting. Now this is the next piece you're going to make. It's an 18-inch PVC riser. The first one was a 24-inch. So this is the same thing, but it's an 18-inch PVC riser, 1/2-inch diameter. And you're going to screw one of these couplers onto each end. It's just a threaded coupler. Put one of those on each end. Again, very simple. And you can go ahead and glue those and tighten them down just like you did with the swing joint elbows. So after this step, you're going to have these two parts, just like that. Now to attach the camera, this is what I did. I just took one of these GoPro mounts, and you'll notice I countersinked and screwed it to one of these PVC caps. It's a 1/2-inch PVC cap, and as you can see, all I have to do is screw this into the end. And the other good thing about having these threaded fittings is you can get them tight, but then there's still a little bit of adjustability back and forth. The important thing is to make sure that you countersink those screws so that they end up flush and they're not going to interfere with the camera sliding in there. And I actually got this part for free. All I did was took the packaging that all the GoPro cameras come with, and I just took a utility knife and cut all the way around the outside. Don't throw these away. There's a million things you can do with them. Okay, now what about the attachment point to the kayak? Well, for that, you're going to need one of these couplings. It's the same coupling that we screwed to this part. So get another one of these couplings. And you're also going to need one of these 1/2-inch caps. So you can see it will thread right into that coupling. And you're going to want to start off with a really small drill bit because it's much easier to be accurate when you're using a really small drill bit. Start off really slow so it doesn't walk on you, and then just drill through the middle. Try not to hit your granite countertop like I did. Okay, so now we're just going to drill out that hole to a 1/4 inch. Now we take a 1/4 inch, a 1/4 1/2-inch bolt, drop it in there, push it out through the hole. And you'll see it fits very snugly in there. And we're just going to backfill that with epoxy. Now there's one other thing I like to do to make sure the epoxy doesn't break loose later. Get a really small drill bit like this and just drill some little indentations. Don't go all the way through. Just go like 1/8 of an inch or so into the plastic. See what I'm doing? So what you end up with is a bunch of little tiny indentations all around your main hole. And that way when you pour the epoxy in later, that's going to secure our bolt so our bolt doesn't spin. It gives something for that epoxy to really grab to. So we're going to drop our 1/4 bolt in now. Got to get it lined up with that hole. Drop it in, and then we're just going to fill this up with some epoxy. Now I discovered that it's important to use the right kind of epoxy. This product comes in several different versions, and on the original packaging that this comes in, it says 4400 psi, and it's the one that's called Clear Weld. This one dries really hard. That's what the 4400 psi stands for, the hardness. And this one dries really hard, and so it works good at preventing the head of this bolt from spinning. Some of the other ones, they're only like 2400 psi or 3000 psi, and if you really try to torque this down, you will spin the head of that bolt. But the 4400 one dries nice and strong. So then you screw that end cap into your coupling, and this is the part that's going to attach to your kayak. And the only part that I didn't purchase at the hardware store is this track nut. I purchased this from one of the kayak accessory retailers like Yak Gear or Yak Attack or Austin Kayak, I forget which one. But they sell these little track nuts in packs of 5. They're not that expensive. So to me it was worth just getting the actual track nut instead of trying to invent something. There are people, if you search for it on YouTube, they've come up with all different ideas to replace this track nut with something else. In fact, my inspiration for this whole part was from Kayak Hack's fishing channel, and the idea to drill the little holes for the epoxy to seep into to make it stronger, that was from somebody in his comments section actually recommended that, and then he did that in a later video when he gave another option for this. Another method, if you want to really make something really strong, and it's also a little more stable because it has a larger base, is to use the 3/4 inch fittings. So here's a finished product of one, and you have to use this 3/4 inch reducer to bring it down to the proper size for our boom arm to fit into. Now I know what you're thinking, why don't I just use a 3/4 inch elbow and a 3/4 inch riser, because they do sell this gray stuff, these gray and black fittings in 3/4. My first attempt I actually did use this all in 3/4 inch. The problem was the actual boom arm is too heavy and it ends up sagging a lot. The 3/4 inch, the 1/2 inch is much lighter and you don't get as much sag. So again, the advantage of using this larger base, it allows you to, let me show you this taken apart. So on one end you've got the cap, you put a bolt through it. The extra space here allows you to drill this hole slightly smaller. Instead of drilling this hole at 1/4 inch that this fits right through, you can drill it at 7/32. So I used a pair of needle nose pliers or a socket on the ones that I've done, and you just kind of get the thread started. Just kind of get it started threading into there, and then you can just keep going until it threads all the way through, and that gives you a really strong attachment. That won't work with the 1/2 inch one because the head of the bolt barely fits in there, and so there's no room for your needle nose pliers or a socket to fit in and around the bolt. So if you want to do this extra strong version, you have to use the 3/4 inch fittings, and then you'll have to use one of these adapters on the end. The disadvantage is that this only comes in white. I have not found the 3/4 inch fitting, 3/4 inch coupling in gray. In the 1/2 inch, you can find the coupling in gray, and the only part that will be white is your end cap. Okay, I'm going to show you how to put it all together now. When I transport it in my truck, I keep it in 2 parts like that just to make it easy to transport. Then once I get to the launch, I start off by taking the base. I'm using the white one right now, the white version, because the gray one that I just built is still in the house drying. So you just get that started in your track, slide it to where you want it. I put it just in front of my foot peg, in between my foot peg and my seat. You can really crank that down. And then you're going to take your 24 inch piece with the elbows on it. So once you got one thread started, I go ahead and I turn it 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And after that 5th turn, you can see that it's nice and solid. It's not going to move around in the wind. Then the last step is to take your 18 inch section and you just screw it onto the other elbow. So this is what you end up with. You end up with a boom arm that looks back towards your seat, and it's really easy just to swing it around, and the camera's going to end up right next to you, so you can turn it on and off really easy, switch batteries, do whatever you need to do, change settings. I'll sit down in a seat and show you how easy it is to move. So as long as you have this set right here by your foot, you can easily manipulate it just by reaching forward and swing it to the front, swing it over here to the back, and again the camera ends up right on your hip. So as you can see, it was a very simple build. I think the only tool I used was a cordless drill. If you can screw two parts together, you can do this project. You'll probably spend more time driving to the hardware store and purchasing the products than you will actually putting it together. I'll leave you with some footage of this camera in action on this boom out in the water, and I even caught a few fish the first time that I took it out. Here it is. Fish. Something. Send him off. There he goes. There it is. No way. I have never caught one of these here. Little Goliath grouper.